Good evening and welcome to Talk Oxford, the show that gets you talking. Joining me on the sofa tonight is Alison Jarrod from Oxfordshire Celiac Group and Maureen Houston, a nutritional therapist practicing in Summertown. Welcome both to Talk Oxford. So tonight, this evening, we're talking about a variety of topics. Obviously, many of them are going to be food related due to both of your career paths. So we're going to be discussing, is it important for teenagers to be brought up with a healthy diet? Because research has been showing that teenage obesity can lead towards bowel cancer in later life, and when you're at that sort of malleable age, whether that is important to sort of mould young people's minds at that age. And then from that, we'll be going into talking about with Ireland legalising gay marriage, whether this is a breakthrough for equality or has it opened up a can of worms. But firstly, let's talk about Oxfordshire Celiac Group. So Alison, what is it precisely all about for those out there in Oxfordshire?
Yes, well, celiac disease is a lifelong autoimmune condition. It's an allergy called product called gluten. Gluten is found in lots of food products such as wheat, rye, barley. So things like pizza, pasta. And things like that are off the diet for anyone who has been diagnosed with celiac disease. What the Oxfordshire Celiac Group do is support Celiac UK by having a regional group and organising events and publicising the condition to our local community.
And I was reading that only a quarter of people come forward who have the disease. I mean, is that quite surprising? Are more people coming forward all the time with celiac disease? There
is approximately 1 in 100 people currently have celiac disease, although potentially not everybody has yet been diagnosed. Yeah. The symptoms vary considerably to very mild symptoms such as fatigue, mouth ulcers, to severe symptoms such as chronic diarrhoea and sickness. So if that is prolonged, then you would go and seek medical advice, but maybe if you were tired or had mouth ulcers, you perhaps wouldn't seek medical advice quite so soon. Yeah. So it does vary.
I mean, some people might be a little cynical about diagnosing celiac disease, because I know a few of my friends went gluten-free, and they almost sort of took it on as sort of a fashion statement, but obviously it is a real disease.
It's an autoimmune condition, so that we lack the enzyme that digests gluten, and the only cure for celiac disease is to follow the gluten-free diet. Obviously, there's celebrities out there that do follow a gluten-free diet for various reasons, because they feel better, but this is actually a medically diagnosed condition.
And Maureen, obviously, your work as a nutritional therapist, do you tend to deal with sort of people who are celiac and come to you for advice?
I do deal with some celiac patients, yes, but I would have to say that being diagnosed with a celiac is not the curse that many people seem to think it might be, or fear, because actually, as a nutritional therapist, I recommend that almost everybody comes off gluten, particularly wheat, which has the largest gluten content of all of the grains, because it's not healthy. And everybody who stops eating wheat, and certainly takes out other gluten grains, but particularly wheat, all sorts of conditions clear up.
Where do people get their carbohydrates from? I mean, I love bread. I like buy tortilla chips and things like that. Does it
tortilla chips? Those are fine. Those are made with corn, and corn is not a gluten-containing grain.
Yeah.
But there are lots of breads that don't contain wheat, don't even contain gluten grains, but are quite delicious, much more delicious than wheat bread.
There's a lot of manufacturers now, including supermarkets, that provide gluten-free bread. So they're made on a bespoke factory that's no cross-contamination with any wheat product. So they're 100% gluten-free, and you can get those in the supermarket or on prescription.
I mean, is that quite a problem? Is it literally just a tiny piece of gluten can come in and spoil everyone's diet?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
cross-contamination is a big concern for somebody with celiac disease. A prolonged exposure to cross-contamination can cause a reaction.
Golly, good grief. And Maureen, I want to know, I was reading up a little bit about you, and you used to be a stockbroker, is that right?
Oh, I was, in one of my former lives. Yeah.
And what made you want to sort of change direction entirely?
I did it for a long time, and I went through the crash in the 80s, which was not pleasant. And I felt it was time for a change. But I didn't go straight into nutrition. I actually became an exercise therapist, got the Calinetics franchise for Central London, and that was really what led me. I've always been passionate about food and fitness, and that was what led me to going to university and doing a degree in nutritional therapy.
Yeah. And do you think sort of people who are terribly office-bound, when you were office-bound yourself, did you find it difficult to have a balanced diet?
Well, I've always been, I suppose what you would call a foodie.
Have you been perfect all the time?
Well, no, perfect, far from perfect. But I've always loved food. Food is my passion. I just love eating, and I love food, and I love good food. I've always sort of avoided, junky things or whatever, because I love good food, good, and I love cooking.
Yeah. Alison, are you a foodie as well?
I do.
Did you find it?
I studied food at college as well earlier, again because of my interest in being diagnosed with celiac disease and wanting to help other people that had been newly diagnosed. So yes, I do tend to, if I can.
And can I ask you, when were you diagnosed with the disease?
I was diagnosed at 18 months old, so back in 1978. The Celiac UK, as they were known back then, had only been around approximately 5 years, so it was a very new subject to GPs at the time. So it did take a good year to diagnose me with a condition. Now the process of diagnosis has somewhat sped up slightly.
Yeah.
So.
And do you find that a lot of people who come to you, is it sort of more difficult for them to adjust their diet if they're middle-aged and they've been spoiled with all things gluten and then suddenly have to change their diet entirely?
Absolutely. We do have a lot of people that find it very difficult to adjust, especially not being able to drink a beer when they go out with their friends, or eating pasta when they go out for a meal or a pizza. However, last year, some of the large pizza chains did bring in gluten-free pizzas on their menus, so things are getting better.
Things are slowly changing.
Yes. Yes.
Well, all this talk about food is making me terribly hungry, but I think it's time we moved on to our first topic. So, recent research has shown that people who suffer from obesity when they're teenagers are more likely to develop bowel cancer later in life. And this is all sort of linked into when you're a teenager, is that should you be sort of moulded and given better food advice in order to prevent becoming ill when you're older? So I want to ask both of you whether you feel that it is important to educate teenagers in food so they have a better diet and become healthier in essence.
Well, I would say the education process begins long before they get to their teens. They should be shown by example in the home from the time they're weaned. That's when they should be given, good, healthy food and not offered the sort of junk, or even offered a choice, which children are today. Which I just can't fathom that. It's children should be given and made to eat what's put in front of them, as long as it's, nice, healthy things and not processed food.
And do either of you have children?
I have young children. My child goes to a local school, and they have very much improved the school dinners by introducing healthy options, interesting healthy options like Shaun the Sheep pasta, and vegetables flavoured with different flavours, so they perhaps don't taste like a carrot or things like that. So there's certainly the curriculum is changing to bring in a more healthy diet, and I find that young children follow each other, and they will maybe eat something at school dinners, but perhaps they wouldn't eat that at home. But certainly it does need to start when they are young.
Yeah, and obviously it's not just about eating healthily. Some people, a survey revealed that 13 to 14-year-old girls are sort of nearly half of 2,000 young girls surveyed were on a diet purely to lose weight and get a good physique. And so obviously it's not sort of just about eating the right things, it's being sensible and saying, well, you do actually need to eat enough of everything as well.
I think it's difficult.
It's the media. The media
yeah.
it has a lot to answer for.
Yeah.
They really do. They show these models that are so skinny and frankly quite unrealistic. And they've been airbrushed anyway. They're probably not like that in real life. But these young girls see those images and they feel that's what they need to look like.
Yeah, and I mean, do you get sort of a lot of teenagers coming to you for
I get
advice?
quite a few teenagers, generally because there's a particular sort of medical condition, although I certainly do get some coming just for weight loss. I've sort of specialised. I did my master's in obesity and weight management, so I've sort of specialised in that area, but I don't want to leave out all the other conditions because I enjoy the different challenges.
And do you, well, this is a question for both of you. I mean, being celiac, is it easier to keep your weight down?
That's a tough one. Certainly when I was younger, probably in my teens, there wasn't the variety of biscuits and cakes and crackers that are now available today. And it has been highlighted that some of the gluten-free products have a high sugar and fat content, more so than some of the normal products that are on the shelves. So if you are trying to replace your favourite digestive with a gluten-free alternative and you eat the same amount, then potentially there could be more side effects to eating more sugar and eating more fat with a gluten-free diet. But you would have to be sensible and monitor the volume and what you are eating, because a natural gluten-free diet is very healthy. Plain vegetables, meat, fruit, nuts and seeds, corn, rye, not rye, sorry, but corn is very healthy.
Yeah, gosh, well...
But there are a lot of other grains as well, which I recommend, such as quinoa and buckwheat and, wild rice.
Yeah, well, we shall continue this interesting discussion about food and dieting after the break, where you've brought some lovely food in with us, which we shall sample after the break.
All celiac friendly.
Yep, all celiac friendly. But join us again after the break, where we shall be discussing more about dieting, and tweet us at That's Oxford TV or email us at talk@that'soxford.com with your views. We look forward to hearing from you.